is up, Raider Nation? How is it going? Welcome to the second episode of the Raidercast preseason show. Ignore that little hiccup. We're gonna be getting to that later on in the stream. I forgot to close it out, but that's okay. Stuff happens. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day, a fantastic week, fantastic month. It's been a great past 2 weeks having some actual news about the Raiders. I'm super excited, looking forward to this season. I'm sure all of you are too. But let's start off this show with some roster updates and roster news. So the PUP list is still pretty full with 4 players still on it. Hankins and Nichols, who are supposed to be our starting defensive tackles, are still on it. Trayvon Mullen is still on it, who's supposed to be one of our starting CBs. And Dylan Stoner, who's he's not a starter or anything like that, but still sucks to see him still on there. On the injured reserve, we have Sincere McCormick, who's been on there for a while, and now a new addition of Kyle Fackrell. Definitely sucks to see him go on the IR, out for the season. He was supposed to be one of the run-stopping rotational edge rushers. It was supposed to have a pretty big role in terms of rotation on the team, but it looks like he's not going to be playing, obviously, this year with going on IR. There's also some other things, like Zamir White is now back. He was injured or something for a little bit, but he's back in camp. I think today was his first day back, or yesterday. Vernon Butler is back now. He's off the, I believe it was the PUP list, or the non-football related injury list, something like that. Micah Kaiser was hurt in camp today, was actually carted off with a leg injury. So that is not good for Micah Kaiser, as he was supposed to be a solid linebacker depth piece. He was definitely fighting for a roster spot, not saying he was guaranteed a spot, but, hopefully, it's nothing serious, but being carted off is never a good thing. As we saw with, I believe Fackrell was carted off too, and there's been a couple injuries like that across the league where they're carted off, which sucks. Teamer is still hurt from the collision with Abram. Looks like Abram got less of the brunt than Teamer did. Probably a concussion of some sort, just due to the nature of the accident, but it could be anything. We don't have any information, so I'm not saying it is a concussion. That's just my theory. I'm not saying that's official, so don't take that out of context or anything like that. Then we had Chandler Jones missing 3 days of camp so far, and also Cleveland Furl is also hurt right now. Well, they could be hurt. We haven't really heard, but they're most likely hurt. I guess it's minor stuff, because otherwise they'd be listed on some sort of PUP list or injured reserve or non-football related stuff or whatever. It looks like that happened with Zamir White as well. Darius Phillips, I think that's his name. One of the cornerbacks, the older corner, he's been out a couple times this week too. Today there was a lot of corners out, so it was pretty much just Hobbs and Ike Brown holding down the fort in terms of the corners. And then we had some additions. Jordan Meredith is back after losing Good to retirement, and then we have Austin Walker, who is also was just signed. It looks like he was signed because of Zeus not being there for a few practices, that or just a camp body, just to fill in for anyone who's injured, which is fine. I mean, I don't think he's going to be making any waves or anything like that. He could just be a practice squad camp body too, so who knows with him. He had some performances. I think he had played 5 games total in the past 2 years. So he's never been a starter or anything like that, so he's definitely some sort of camp body. Looking at, that's pretty much it for the roster news. There wasn't a lot new except for Fackrell, which sucks to see. It's definitely not something you want to hear on one of the first weeks of camp, losing one of us supposed to be a solid rotational person. But let's move on to some of the training camp battles now. We're going to look at the defense first. because the offense is definitely more interesting in my opinion. So for camp battles on the defense, Kuntz is going to need to step up on the edge. He has an opportunity to become and take over Fackrell's role. In my original top 53, final roster thing, I had Fackrell, Furl, Kuntz, Crosby, Jones, and I believe Deshaun Bauer. But I mean, with Fackrell going down, we're either going to have to shop or we're just going to keep what we have. I think Kuntz, people are hyping him up. Some people are like, let's calm down on the hype. I think he'll be very solid as a rotational rusher. I don't know if he'll be filling that run stop rotational player as well as Fackrell was supposed to, but he should be solid on the pass rush. But he definitely needs to step it up. He's kind of had, according to, I believe it was Vic Taffer, one of his tweets said that, or in the Athletic article I was reading, Kuntz has had a slow start to camp, but not necessarily bad. He's just like, he hasn't had anything crazy recently, but he's starting to get more first team reps because of the injury recently. And then we have the Furl taking some defensive tackle snaps before, obviously he was absent from camp. The defensive tackle room looks like Lancaster, Billings, Pico, and Vickers are all taking first team reps right now over the rookies, which is kind of obvious. I think they're kind of staying second team for now just because they are rookies. But we really need Nichols and Hankins back because there's no pass rush right now, according to according to the Athletic. I believe it was either Tashawn Reed or Vic Taffer. Those are the only two for the Athletic. But I was reading their articles, so definitely, obviously, go check out their Twitter because they post a lot during camp. But I guess the defensive tackle room's looking solid against the run, but bad versus the pass. They don't really generate any pass rush. And then just beyond the defensive tackles, looking at Crosby and Jones, I didn't really write anything down because they've been showing up like they're supposed to. Obviously, Jones has been hurt, but when he was at camp, he was, Crosby and Jones was apparently the pass rush duo that everyone's been hyping them up to be, so that's a good thing to hear. Looking at the linebackers, Darian Butler's stock's going way up, which is awesome because he was one of my players to watch this camp. I'm really excited to see what he can do. With Micah Kaiser going down now, this is a really big opportunity for him to step up. I'll get to it later, but I definitely think we'll see a lot of him at the Hall of Fame game. And then we have corners, Averett, Yassin, and Hobbs could be the Week 1 trio. Mullins' nagging foot injury has kept him out of camp the past 2 weeks. I don't know if he'll be back by the deadline to get him off the PUP list. We're hoping I'm hoping because having him as even a depth piece like after those first 3 is great because he is a very solid player. So not having him is not a good thing. Hopefully he gets healthy, but I'm with him. It's always been an injury ever since 2020. He's always had that foot injury nagging. But here's to hoping that he can actually get back into camp. Moving on, let's go on to the offensive line and offense in general. Mostly the O-line. That's the most interesting camp battles that we've had so far. The starting 5 is solidifying. It's going to most likely be Colton Miller at left tackle, John Simpson at left guard, Andre James in the center, Lester Cotton in right guard, and Brandon Parker at right tackle. So that seems to be what the starting O-line is right now. You have Cotton's stocks going way up after Denzel Good retired. He was getting a lot of the first team reps anyway, even before Good retired. So that's a great sign to see that. I don't know how great it is. It's definitely worrying to see, a undrafted free agent second year player coming in and winning that starting role from really anyone else we have on the team. But maybe that just shows us how good he actually is now. I like to think on the positive side, so I think this just shows how good he's developed over the past season. And then you have Leatherwood, who's battling Thayer Munford for the second team spot, and even battling for right tackle. He was a 6th round pick, I believe, in this recent draft. He was a beast at the reason why he fell so far is he was a beast at tackle at Ohio State. However, he played guard for the better of the team last season, and he didn't play as well as he did at tackle, which is why his draft stock fell. However, he's definitely a development player, but they are getting some reps versus Leatherwood isn't exactly great for Leatherwood because, I mean, he's getting 13 reps now as a first-round pick. He's behind Brandon Parker, who's honestly not played well at all. Not trying to be mean, it's just a fact. He hasn't played well at all the past ever. So seeing that Leatherwood is struggling to even win over Brandon Parker and now is struggling to get second team reps, or is battling for second team reps with a 6th-round developmental tackle pick, is not great to see. It sucks because it seems like Leatherwood's such a great guy, but it definitely, the beat reporters, a lot of them were saying that, like, even though he was saying his spirits are up, his body language was not saying that. So hopefully he gets over this mental block and is able to push and battle to get that spot that he hopefully can win over Parker. And then looking at Parham, he's battling for the right guard, left guard spot. Not center as much this week anymore. I don't think he'll be starting this season unless, obviously injuries happen. But he will be a very solid backup if Simpson or Cotton go down, or if they're not performing. And even with Andre James, if he goes down, he'll be a solid center. So that interior is Dylan Parham's. He's going to be the backup for all 3 of them, along with the other O-linemen. But it's mostly him that's going to be like the backup for the very center of the O-line, the right guard, center, and left guard. Moving on, wide receiver Tyron Johnson, otherwise known as T. Billy. His stocks are rising again this week. They're at an all-time high. The beat reporters are reporting all about T. Billy. You don't really hear much about anyone else except for T. Billy. He's looked really great in camp, which is awesome, because everyone's wondering why even Chargers fan I've seen on Twitter, like, why did we get rid of Tyron Johnson? And who knows, because they're a bad run organization probably. But he was very solid for them. He burned us in 2020, and that's probably why we picked him up. They're like, oh, he's a speed guy, and if he can develop, route running, he can get his mentals all good. I think he could be a really solid wide receiver 3. It's definitely going to be a Keelan Cole, Tyron Johnson battle for wide receiver 3. I don't see him battling for anything lower than that. In terms of whoever wins that will become wide receiver 3. Whoever doesn't win that will be wide receiver 4. And then wide receiver 5 and 6 are going to be a battle between Mac Hollins and DeMarcus Robinson for sure. However, we have heard a lot about DJ Turner. Justin Hall's, I guess, turned some heads this week, according to The Athletic. But, I don't think those undrafted free agents or camp bodies from last year are going to really make the roster. But that's good to hear that they are making waves. That means that they'll be solid backups if we do need to call on them. Adams, Renfro are dominating as usual, and then Hollins has played about the same as we heard last week. Not much about him. It was mostly T. Billy. And then we have quarterbacks. Stidham looks like it's his job to lose for QB2, which I was already talking about and already saying this whole time. I don't see us trading for a Patriots quarterback and not using him in the Patriots offense as a QB2. And it looks like Garbers and Mullins are going to be fighting for the QB3 spot. And I'll get to it later, but I think Garbers will definitely play in the Hall of Fame game. He'll probably split with Mullins and maybe a little bit of Stidham, but I think we're going to save Stidham for the other preseason games. I mean, Mullins will probably win the QB3 spot, but you never know. You never know. And then that's really it for the camp battles. I think, it looks like the O-line is solidified at this point. It's mostly looking at who can be backup and stuff like that, and can Leatherwood step up and actually take over that right tackle spot, or even at least the second behind him. Or will they start trying Leatherwood out at right guard and battle Lester Cotton for the right guard spot? It just sucks to see. People are like, oh, will we trade Leatherwood? He doesn't really have a lot of trade value right now, so I don't see that happening. Some other things I just want to talk about beyond these, so I'm just going to get rid of this. People are talking about trading Furl or even Abram. That would be the stupidest thing ever. We lose $10 million in dead cap for a player we won't be playing for us, so why would we do that? He's going to be a rotational guy. Why would we cut him with a year left? That there's no point. Or even trade him. He doesn't really have trade value either. Same thing with Abram. People hate on Abram all the time, but he again doesn't have trade value, and it'll just be a dead cap for a player that won't be playing for us. So why would we do that with 1 year left? Just let them play this year. They're both not bad enough to not be backups. I mean, they're not really that great to be starters, but that doesn't mean they can't be good backups. I mean, there's always value in good depth, and I think Furl and Abram are both solid-ish depth. Furl more than Abram in my opinion, but that's just me. It's definitely good to see him taking defensive tackle for Furl because snaps, because he was used there last year. He's been kind of this like hybrid defensive tackle, defensive end type of person, but it's good to see him taking the inside snaps because if they're using a five front and 4 back, the 3-4 versus 4-3. If he's taking the inside, he'll definitely be like the nose tackle, and then he'll be one of the edge, and then you'll have Jones and Max as linebackers in the back rushing, and he'll eat up the middle. And honestly, he could be one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles we have because he actually has that experience to be a good pass rusher, on top of having the build to be a defensive tackle. I think they're just trying stuff out at this point because Nichols and Hankins are out on the PUP list, and they just in case they don't make it back in time to get off the PUP list and not be on IR, we're gonna see Furl, I think, more at defensive tackle than we will at defensive end if Hankins and Nichols don't come back, just because our defensive tackles don't have enough pass rush. But that's really it for the training camp battles, the roster reports. There wasn't too much more new stuff this week. I talked about all the stuff that I wanted to talk about so far, but now it's time to look at the Hall of Fame game. August 4th, this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm really excited to see some nice football. Honestly, it's going to be like watching a USFL game just because there's a bunch of practice squad players fighting for roster spots and stuff like that. So I'm excited for that type of football because I love the USFL. So I'm very much fine with watching more USFL style gameplay. I want to talk about the Hall of Fame game. So definite starters, I'm going to be looking at the roster. We're definitely going to see some of Ike Brown for corner. You're definitely going to see basically any undrafted free agent that we got this year. We got like 12 of them. We have an insane amount of undrafted free agents. We're going to be seeing all of them. Bryce Cosby, you have Ike Brown. We're going to be getting in there. We have Chris Jones, Cravon LeBlanc, probably some of Meek Robertson, even though he is a third-year player for us. He's probably going to get some reps in there. Sam Webb, anyone who's not really a starter or supposed to be a starter in the season is not going to play the Hall of Fame game. You might see someone like Hobbs or Morig play a little bit in the actual preseason, like preseason week 1, 2, or 3, but you're not really going to see those types of starters in the Hall of Fame game. The only big name that I could really see be playing are the O-line, because we really don't know who that's going to be. So I'm just going to take a look at the roster right now, in terms of like who could actually be playing. That could be a starter by week 1 for the O-line, and it's taking a little bit to find. Obviously Alex Leatherwood might play some. You have Brandon Parker may play some, but I doubt it, just because he is that solidified like first team starter for tackle. Now I find the guards. Where are they? This is so weirdly set up. Jermaine Illumore might play some. Alex Bars, Jordan Meredith will probably play. I mean, these are all people that might be starters, like I said. I'm not seeing half of our players, but regardless, the O-line is probably going to be playing a lot more, other than Colton Miller, and I think Andre James won't really play. But other than that, since it's so open, we're gonna see a lot of Dylan Parham. Actually, that's what we're gonna see. We're seeing him probably move around the line a lot, see where he fits the best. He probably will play center, honestly, because we won't have Andre James play center during the preseason. That would be not good. But you're gonna see all the backups play, all the fourth stringers play in the Hall of Fame game versus the Jaguars, which they have really bad, probably fourth stringers. one of my friends on Twitter is like, I had a dream that it's 29-0 in the Hall of Fame game by halftime, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it's probably gonna happen. There's no way that's not gonna happen. I think we're gonna be dominant over them. Some of the players that will definitely sit, obviously Carr, you have Crosby, Jones, anyone that's like not even going to be playing the preseason in general is not going to play. For definite starts, it's like I talked about, the O-lines and stuff like that. The defensive tackle room is going to be just rotating through everyone. For any starters, like I already talked about the O-line, defensive tackle, those we'll see starters end up playing in the preseason. In terms of everywhere else, I can see a lot of the secondary start. Deron Harmon even may get some snaps in the entire preseason. You'll probably see Murray get some snaps, Hobbs. Just because they're starters or week 1 starters doesn't mean doesn't mean they won't play in the preseason. Josh McDaniels said we'll probably see some starters. Just because it's better to play them then and see where they're at, just to make sure they're good and get a few snaps in, than to not play them at all and have them just go into week 1 like boom. Especially since if they're young players. Definitely gonna see some Tyree Gillespie. Haven't really heard a lot about it from him in camp, but I'm definitely excited to see what he can do in the preseason. There's all these undrafted free agents I'm excited to see, because you'll probably only see him in the preseason. They'll probably be gone, almost all of them, by week 1. But yeah, I mean, there's no one in here right now. That's okay. But in the comments down below, talk to me. Let me know what you think about camp so far. Excited to hear what you guys have to say. Definitely looking forward to the preseason game, Hall of Fame game. Seeing some football, Raider football playing. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be awesome, even if it is against the Jaguars. And then we have camp. Camp is going to continue. Not a lot this week, just because it's a Hall of Fame game week. We're going to be preparing for that. But afterwards, it's going to be a lot more in the process of game week football preparation and practice and scheduling until September 11th, when the whole thing comes to fruition. We're almost at a month away. I think we're like about a month and a half away from football officially starting. Full regular season football, and I cannot wait. So talk to me down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I have Retro Bowl coming out Tuesday. I have my Raidercast episode. I deleted the last one. I didn't like how it came out, but I will be doing my 53-man roster this week on Friday. That will be a stream just because I want to be talking to you guys. So definitely pop in, talk to me in the chat. Because I want to talk to you guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And then I'll be posting maybe another short video this week. Thank you guys for 600 views on that one. I'm back down to 49 subscribers. So hopefully we get back up to 50 by Thursday. But, I appreciate all the love, everyone. It's been awesome. I'm very excited to continue doing YouTube and providing entertainment for you guys, especially once the season starts, because that's when the content's really going to be rolling. I'm going to do my best to manage YouTube, Twitter, and school all at once. But much love to you, Raider Nation, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, a wonderful month, a wonderful year, a wonderful life.